guys, my name is Mansi Anand and I welcome you to this series called RBI 24/7. So guys, as most of you would be knowing that in this series we discuss a set of 5 questions that can be of use to you if you are preparing for competitive exams, right? So let's not waste any time and move straight away to the questions. But before doing that, guys, I would like to ask you to subscribe to our channel. So if you're watching our video for the very first time, then do not forget to hit the subscribe button. It can help you to stay in touch with us. And if you press this bell icon, it can help you to get notified whenever a new video comes up. You can also join our Telegram group. On this group, you can post all your doubts and queries and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible, either on the group or we can get doubts from Telegram and solve them in these videos, right? And apart from that, if you ever have any doubt, you can always mention them on the videos and we try to take them up as soon as possible so that we can easily resolve your doubts, right? So are you ready for question number 1? Here is the question number 1. Okay, this question says, there exists a relationship between number of shares and volatility. In regard to that, select the correct option. Okay, here we are talking about some sort of relationship that exists between the number of shares that are there and the impact that they have on the volatility of the shares, right? So you have to select the correct option which defines the correct relationship between these two factors, right? So moving ahead to the solution, and the solution says that the correct option is C. C means this one. When the number of free floating shares is more, it indicates lower volatility. So basically there exists an inverse relationship between free floating shares of a company that are there and so the more the number of free floating shares, the lower is the volatility, right? So what is the meaning of volatility? That means the movement in the prices of shares, right? So that means if a company that is having a lot of shares that are available for trade in the market. So what are free floating shares? Free floating shares means that those shares which are available for the trading, which are available to the traders for trading, right? So these are the shares which can lead to price fluctuations in the market when investors they buy them or they sell them, right? So these are free floating shares which are available for trading. And volatility means that how much is the change is in the price of a share, whether the price is going up or whether the price is going down. So how much is the volatility? Okay, so we will learn about the reason behind this relationship. First of all, we are studying this under free float methodology, right? So under this free float methodology, the number of free floating shares inversely related to the volatility, right? And now why is so? See, imagine a company which is very huge in size, massive company, and it has a lot of free floating shares, right? So that means if you need to move the price of share up and down, you need to buy and sell a lot of shares, then only an investor would be able to make a dent in the price, right? So if you buy a small number of shares or you buy lesser number of shares, then there is going to be there is not going to be a huge change in price. There is only going to be a small change, right? So that means for a company of massive size which has a large number of free floating shares available for trading, investors need to buy a lot of shares if they want to push the prices up, or they need to sell a lot of shares if they want to pull the prices down, right? So that is why the larger the number of the shares, the lower is the volatility, because then it becomes difficult to move the price if the number of floating shares is more, right? But if on the other hand we consider a company which is smaller in size, less number of free floating shares, then it might be easier for investors to buy those shares and then move the prices, because already the available shares are very less and you can easily move the prices, right? So this is the correct option. Okay, So moving ahead to the solution, here you can see we have discussed most of the things which are mentioned here. Free float methodology, method of calculating market capitalization of a stock market index. See guys, why do we calculate index? So I think we all must have heard the name of indices like Sensex, Nifty, or if we go international, S&P 500 or MSCI. Right. So we have all, I think we all are familiar with such names. So what are these? These are nothing but basically an average of performance of certain companies that are there in the stock market, right? This is like Sensex calculates for 30 companies, Nifty calculates for 50 companies, S&P 500 for 500, right? So basically we are just taking a sample out of the whole industry, a limited number of industries, and we are trying to analyze, okay, these industries are performing like this, that means they are representing the entire market, so entire market is performing like this. Obviously there can be deviations in the movement of these indices and the actual reality of the market, but they are like representations which give us an idea that how is market going, what is the condition of industry, whether firms are getting businesses or whether they are making profit or they are making losses, right? So these are indices, basically just an average of performance of certain sample of companies that is derived from the market, right? So now if we want to calculate such indices, we can do it by different methods. So under free float methodology, we take the method of market capitalization. That means we are trying to calculate these indices on the basis of market capitalization of a company. So a company which has a larger market capitalization is going to have a huge impact on that index in relation to a company which has a smaller market cap. Now what is this market cap? Simply see, when you multiply the free floating shares of a company with the price of one share, so you get the value of all the free floating shares of the company. So basically you get market capitalization of the company. So market capitalization is nothing but the value of free floating shares of a company. Now you can also measure these indices on the basis of price of one share without taking into account the number of free floating shares, right? So basically there are different methodologies. Here we are talking about the methodology which talks about market cap, right? So under free float, market capitalization is calculated by taking equities price and multiplying it by number of shares readily available for trade, that is free floating shares, right? So in this we are taking free floating shares rather than all the shares of a company, because there are certain number of shares of a company which are not available for trade because they are held by either insiders like employees of the company who are not eager to sell these shares, right? They have a tendency to hold on to the shares, held by promoters, held by governments, right? So these shares are not available for trading. So basically take all the shares of a company, reduce these locked in shares, right? Then you get the free floating shares, multiply it by price, you get the market capitalization, right? So larger free float means lower volatility because there are more traders buying and selling the shares, right? So many institutional investors, they prefer trading companies with a larger cap because they can buy or sell large number of shares without moving the price, right? So because if let's say there is big bank or let's say there is a mutual fund which wants to invest in a certain company and it doesn't want the price of the company to spike when it invests in it, so it would tend to invest in a company that is having a larger market capitalization, so that it does not impact that much the market price of that particular company, right? So moving ahead to the next question. Okay, in this question we are talking about, okay, let me just read the question. This question says, following are some statements about different indices. Which of the following statements are not correct? Moving ahead to the correct option, guys, you can pause the video here and give them a thorough read and then decide with your answer. Okay, the correct option is option B. Option B means 1 and 2. So option 1 and 2, they are not correct, whereas option 3 is correct, right? So we just learned about what are indices, and I told you we can calculate them by either taking into account market cap, or we can just calculate them on the basis of price of the share of a company. So see, the difference between the two is, here you are considering two factors for analyzing a company's performance: number of free floating shares and price of one share. Here we are only considering one factor, that is price of the share, right? So it does not take into account number of shares, right? So these are two methodologies. Now here, coming to the statements. First statement, it says price weighted index versus capitalization indices are quite similar, as methodology is not very different. So this is not true. They give different results to you. When see, if you analyze these performance of same companies by these two methods, you will there are more chances that you will see a difference in them. So there are differences in them. That is why they are not that similar. The approach is entirely different. So the statement is wrong. After that, in the trading market, very few indices are capitalization weighted. So this is not correct. Most of the indices that we talk about, that we use, they are capitalization or market cap weighted. Very few are price weighted. So one of these few is Dow Jones Industrial Average. This is one popular index which is based on price rather than the market cap. That is why the third statement is correct. First and second are incorrect, right? So moving ahead to the solution. Okay. So indexes in market usually weighted either by price or market cap. Market cap, most common methodology. I just told you this. Leading market weighted index in US is S&P 500, very popular index. In a price weighted index, stocks with higher price receive higher weighting. So as I just told you, that under price methodology, that company is going to have a larger impact whose price value is more. But in case of market cap, we are considering two factors, so results can be entirely different, right? So it gives you the formula of market cap, right? Moving ahead to the next question. Okay, here is the third question for today, which says Poolchand Tripathi is a young man who is very ambitious. He has an entrepreneurial spirit, and from his college days he has been working on the idea of a startup. Okay, but the point is that Munna here does not want any publicity for his idea, as it is vulnerable to imitation if it gets out in the public. So what type of company you should go for? So there is a man who is very ambitious and is thinking of going for a company. He wants to own a startup. He wants to go for a startup. He wants to own a company. He wants to become an entrepreneur. But the point here is that he doesn't want too much publicity for it. He wants to keep it a secret. He wants his idea to remain a secret until and unless he is ready to portray it to the world, right? So what type of company should he go for? Moving ahead to the solution, and the correct option for this question is option E. Option E means stealth mode startup. I think it's an easy question if you know the meaning to the word stealth, which means moving by caution or being careful, right? Not taking any reckless steps, trying to move with baby steps, right? So correct answer is stealth mode startup. Basically, if we talk about a stealth mode startup, it is a company where the promoters, with the founders of the company, they do not want any publicity for their idea. They think that let us keep it a secret, let us try to work on it secretly, and let us not allow the public to know about it. Okay, so basically, I think this is a common trend in companies where they give a code name to one of their projects. Let's say if there is a company that manufactures computers, if it's working on a new model, then it's going to name its project, it is going to give some code name to its project, because it does not want its competitors to know that what is it working on, or it does not want media to know about it. Because see, what if the media knows about it and then they are not able to pull it off? Then they are going to face huge insults, right? So basically keeping it a secret unless and until you are ready to give it out to the world, right? So that is a stealth mode startup. So Microsoft has been popular in these terms, giving code names to their project and then bringing out the launch of the product and then showing it to the world. So stealth mode startup company that operates in stealth mode avoids public attention. Right. So this thing has its own advantages and disadvantages that we are going to discuss. This may be done to hide information for competitors, as I just told you, or it can be a part of marketing strategy. Basically, it can be to create suspense also, that that media knows that you're working on some project which has a code name this, but they don't know what are you working on, or they have no idea. So it might create some suspense, right? So to create to create some sort of suspense, to create some sort of mystery in the market, or to portray your company as working on something really important. Okay, advantages here: protects intellectual property. If you do not want, if you think the idea can be stolen by your competitor, and probably they might be able to launch it sooner than you, then obviously you're going to face loss. Your research is going to go to vain, right? In that case, if you want to protect that idea, this is a mode to go for. Benefit of anonymity. Basically, no one knows that who is going to come out in the open with what idea. So there is benefit of anonymity because you're keeping it a secret. After that, control of public image. No negative publicity because media does not know about what are you doing. After that, disadvantages: impedes finding the right market fit. So if you want to test your product, or if you want that that what is the target audience for your product, then these decisions are going to be a bit difficult if you're not communicating it to the target audience. So this is one of the disadvantage. Restricts buzz. So this might lead to this might lead to lesser creation of buzz, because if you're not telling media about what are you doing, or if you're not letting your customers know about your idea, they might lose interest in it. So restriction of buzz, limited feedback, as I just told you that it is difficult without communicating. So if you communicate, people know what are you working on, you might be able to test it, you might be able to take different opinions, but this feedback gets limited in this mode of company because things are kept secret. Okay, so this was one of the doubt from a session, and basically that person asked the difference between a stealth mode startup and a dormant company. Dormant company is a company which is not doing any operations, or which is not carrying out any operations of a normal company, right? So dormant company is not operational, whereas a stealth mode startup is operational, but it's kept a secret. So that is the difference. I hope this helps you. Moving ahead. Okay, here is your fourth question for today, which says, what does it refer to in the following statements? Okay, two statements given to you. You have to tell that what is the meaning of it here. Moving ahead to the solution, and the solution says that the correct option is D. D means earnest money deposit. Okay, earnest money deposit. So basically, let us try to understand with the help of an example. Let's say you are thinking of buying a house, and you go to a society. Let's say you are thinking of buying a flat into Ghaziabad. You go there, you see that many developers are building societies there, so I should just go and check it out. So you go there and check out different flats, and then you like some of them. You like, let's say there is one flat that you really like so much, and you can picture yourself living there for the next coming 20 years. You want to buy it, but still there is some amount of risk. You're not sure, you want to consult your parents, you want to consult your friends. So for that, you try to book that flat by giving some amount of money to the builder, or to the person who is to the person who is authorized to do it, to collect your money. So you give some amount of money to him, and then you go home, you consult your parents, consult your relatives, and then you later decide that whether you want to buy it or not. But see, here risk is involved for both of you, because if you pay the entire amount and you buy that flat and then you consult your parents, then you find out there is some sort of problem in that house, then it's going to be really difficult for you. Whereas if you don't come and buy that house and you just book it and go away and never come back to that builder, it is just for that particular person, because he might not be able to sell it, or he might turn away some customers just because he has booked the flat for you, right? So this earnest money means a part of a deposit which has been made to buy a product that you are interested in but you're not sure. That is why you have made a certain amount of contribution towards it, and if you don't buy it, it gets forfeited or it gets refunded, depending upon the policies, right? So here is earnest money deposit, refers to a deposit buyer makes on a home that they want to purchase, gives the buyers extra time to get financing and conduct research about the property. Just as I told you that you can go back to your friends and relatives, your parents, and you can consult them, you can do research, you can talk to people living there that whether the investment is good or not. Right? So that is earnest money. Let us learn some more things about it. Okay. So deposit made to a seller that represents buyer's good faith to buy her home. Good faith means that you are placing your money with that seller with the trust that you're going to come back and give the rest of the money to the seller and buy that particular house, right? So earnest money deposit is a very common term which is used in the sector of real estate, and it is also used in the sector of government procurement. We are going to discuss about it. So good faith, deposit of money into an account by buyer to show he or she has intent of completing the deal and coming back to buy the asset. Contract is written up during the exchange of earnest money that outlines the conditions for refunding the amount. That if you don't come back, whether you will get the money back or not, or if you will get some proportion of it back, all those things are put into a contract, right? Earnest money deposit can be anywhere from 1 to 10% of the sales price, depending mostly upon the market interest, right? So it is usually 1 to 10% of the sale price. So if you're looking to buy a flat of worth rupees 50 lakh, it might range around 50,000 to 5 lakh, depending upon where you are thinking of buying it, right? So in government procurement also, see, whenever government is thinking to buy some goods or it is thinking of giving some contract, let's say government wants to build a road and it gives it wants to give contract to a construction company for it, and there are many construction companies that are bidding for it, that are telling the government that we are going to build it on a very cheap within a very cheaper price, give the contract to us, we'll do your work at lesser prices. But what if someone quotes that they are going to do it in good quality at a very lesser price, and then they are unable to complete the deal? So to mitigate these type of risks, this EMD or earnest money deposit is taken from that particular bidder, right? So one company which is bidding for government, getting government contract, deposit some amount with government, and if they do not complete the deal, their amount is forfeited or some proportion of it is forfeited. So this term is also mentioned here, and this ranges around usually 1 to 10% of the contract price, right? So to ensure that the builder does not submit a dummy bid or back out and government does not face any loss, collects a small refundable fee from each bidder, which is called EMD, right? So announcing, now there has been some recent announcement regarding this, right? What is this announcement? Announcing support for construction and infrastructure. The finance minister, she refers to FM, Nirmala Sitharaman, said that earnest money deposit and performance security requirements will be relaxed for government tenders. So basically they are saying that we are thinking of doing away with this deposit so that more businesses can bid for it. So there might be some businesses which are interested to bid, but they do not have such sort of money to deposit EMD. So that is why they are thinking of doing away with earnest money deposit, or at least reducing the percentage that is charged for it, so that more businesses are able to bid for it, right? Will not be required for tenders and will be replaced by bid security declaration, right? So they are thinking of doing away with this. So guys, recently there has been announcements, some more announcements by finance minister, which is being quoted as Atmanirbhar package 3.0, and that has been, so this is also part of those requirements. We are not talking about them here because Manish sir has covered them in great detail in PIP 247, right? So you can watch that if you want to have a detailed perspective about these new measures, right? So I would suggest you to definitely watch it. So you're going to get detailed information about it, right? Moving ahead to the last question. Here is your last question for today, which says select the correct statement about expression of interest. So this also comes from your doubts. Expression of interest, the meaning of it. So five statements given to you which explain the meaning of this term. You have to select the correct one. Moving ahead to the solution, and the solution says that the correct option is option C. Option C means expression of interest indicates an serious interest from the buyer that their company would be interested to pay a certain valuation and acquire seller's company through a formal offer. Right, so this seems little complicated. Let us try to understand it with the help of examples. Okay, you all are familiar about Jet Airways or I ILFS, the debacle that happened, right? So these type of companies, whenever some debacle happens, government tries to sell them, right? They are also looking for some buyers for Air India, right? So whenever companies are in financial distress and they are looking for sale, let's say they're not even in financial distress, but they're looking out for buyers, the owners are looking to sell their company, then they invite expression of interest from the potential buyers that okay, we are interested to sell our company, you come with a contract, you come with the offer, and then we'll decide that who is going to be the buyer, right? So expression of interest simply means a declaration or a document by an interested buyer that okay, I am interested to buy your company, right? So now it seems a bit easier. Serious interest from the buyer, so the buyer is showing interest that I want to buy your company, that their company would be interested to pay a certain valuation and acquire seller's company through a formal offer, right? So many times you see that for Air India or for Jet Airways, many expressions of interest, they come from foreign companies, but then the deal doesn't work out, right? So this is a very common terms, and I think as long as we are seeing a rise in NPAs or we are seeing companies going bad, going bankrupt, this term has been in news for a very long time. Okay, expression of interest. One of the initial transaction document which is shared by the buyer in a potential mergers and acquisitions deal. They are a major part of mergers and acquisitions deal. EOI also ensures that the buyer is interested and ready to pay a certain amount. Basically it tells about the willingness of the buyer. So many times government, they try, if they have to sell a bad company or a company which is debt ridden, they try to provide some incentives to sweeten the deal so that they can increase the number of potential buyers, or they can increase the number of companies who are interested to buy the particular company which is being sold. It includes, so what are the contents of expression of interest? Includes details like purchase price, the price that the interested buyer is offering, valuation methodology, that how have they calculated this particular price, how have they calculated the value of the company that they are interested to buy, confidentiality, due diligence, that if they want to check that whatever sellers are telling about their company, whether it is correct or not, transaction structure, how they are going to pay, management retention, whether they are going to fire the existing employees or they are going to keep them, confidentiality, expenses, that who is going to pay the expenses, right? There's a lot of paperwork in such deals, right? So this is expression of interest. So guys, these were the 5 questions for today, and I hope you have learned something new from this video. Before ending this session, I would like to tell you a few things. Okay, first of all, there was a doubt. One of you asked in the comments that so that was a question about current yield, when we discussed that when the investors, they buy bond on a discount, their current yield becomes more than the coupon rate because they have a profit. They are buying the asset at lesser than their face value, right? So one of you asked that why would anyone be interested to buy a bond at premium? Because if they buy it at premium, they are buying it at higher than market price, and their current yield might come down from the as compared to the coupon rate. So the reason behind this is very simple, because they think that because they think that that this bond is going to gain value even more than the premium that they pay for, they had pay for it, they had to pay for it, right? Because they think that okay, this is the price now and this is going to gain in future, and if I don't buy it now, this might be higher, right? So they think that it's okay if I have to pay a little premium here, I can cover it with the gain that I'm going to have in future, right? So simply gain incentive. Okay, and one more thing, I asked you about two questions in Monday and Tuesday sessions. I asked you two questions to answer. Most of you have answered only one question, and Ishita has answered both the question. So good going, Ishita, and your answers are correct. Most of you have answered correctly, but I would like it more if you answer all the questions that I asked you to, right? So that is going to be benefit for that is going to be beneficial for you guys only, right? And one more thing, okay, in the beginning questions we discussed about market indices. So basically many Indian companies have been added to one index, and it is being viewed as a good sign for Indian economy. Many Indian companies have been added to one very popular index. So you have to read about it and mention the details in the comments, that which is that index that I am talking about, and is it going to benefit India or not, right? So try reading about some companies. They're very popular companies which are being added to this index, right? So I hope to see a lot and lot of answers in the comments. Until then, you take care of your health, keep your studies going on, and I'll be back in next session with some new information. Until then, goodbye and take care, and thank you for being here.